Judgment. Final judgment. Final
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Final Judgment here with Tony Jigsaw Cutillo. Obviously brought to you always by Heat Ratio Sports and Win Daily Sports. Heat Ratio Sports, we just did a Heat Ratio live the other night, previewing the Eagles and doing some predictions. So make sure you check that out. Boys from Flyer and Ice just went with their Flyer preview the other night. Make sure you check that out as well. Make sure you're subscribing to that YouTube page. Win Daily Sports, listen, just did an MLB preview last night. Jason and Dave did it, breaking it down from a DFS and a sports betting perspective. So make sure you're following Win Daily Sports for all your sports betting and DFS needs. And most importantly, make sure you're following the Final Judgment right here with Tony Jigsaw Cutillo. We go live every Monday and Thursday, or Monday and Friday, depending on what the game looks like last night. And that game was a debacle last night, but still had some money on the line, so we had to watch it. As always, brought to you, flagship sponsor of this show. You see it right there, SEObrand.com. We'll get more on what they do best in a little bit. But man, this is Red October starts today. And again, I'm so pumped. It's funny because, we went through a bunch of weeks of up and down emotional roller coasters with the Philadelphia Phillies. And we consistently said, do they have enough? Are they going to collapse? Is this going to be the same September of old where, our hopes and expectations are on cloud nine and boom, they hit rock bottom? Kind of like, no disrespect to any Mets fans out there, but kind of like what your Mets did to you when they collapsed in September and gave the NL East to the Braves. So that's something nobody expected. I for one didn't expect that. But again, still a 1-2 punch with DeGrom and Scherzer that I don't want to face in the playoffs. So at the end of the day, I think this is kind of the best case scenario for the Philadelphia Phillies. No disrespect to the St. Louis Cardinals, who again we got to play in Busch, in Cardinal Stadium. I mean, it's not an easy place to play. We talk about those rally towels. We talk about the fans of Philadelphia packing Citizens Bank Park and being all in with this team. Well, I'll tell you what, St. Louis is a baseball town. We've said it so many different times, and it's not an easy place to play. And when you're facing guys like Goldschmidt and Arenado, it's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be easy. They have a really good team. But again, it's a 3-game series, starts today, 2:00. I'm so pumped for Major League Baseball playoffs because, again, the playoffs in Major League Baseball and NHL for hockey are second to none. They really are. And I know a lot of people are saying they don't like the new format for Major League Baseball because of the extra playoff team and the 3-game. I think it's fantastic. I mean, we talk about so many different times. We talk about this game of baseball and everybody says it's boring. It's overdrawn. It's too long, right? Everybody talks about that, but this is the complete opposite, right? So we didn't go another 7-game series. They're giving you a 3-game series. You're going to be on the edge of your seat. And that's the one thing about baseball. If you don't watch playoff baseball, you're going to realize that people don't sit down. Have you ever been to a Major League Baseball game? Like, if what I mean, a Major League Baseball playoff game, if you ever been to an MLB playoff game, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But if not, just watch it. The flash photography that's going off for that first pitch. every at bat, people are standing up. People don't sit down. It's that exciting. You are on every pitch, and I can't wait to watch it. And we have a string of games today. Obviously, starting at noontime. Tampa Bay and Cleveland. Then we go Philly and St. Louis, Seattle, Toronto, San Diego, and the Mets. I mean, listen, I can't wait. It's an all day event. It really is, and I love that the Phillies have the 8:37 game tomorrow night. I think that speaks volumes for Major League Baseball. You know, you have all these teams, 8 teams, and you pick the Philadelphia Phillies to go last. That's over the Mets, by the way. Just throwing it out there. So I definitely do like that. I like the way the schedule kind of, plays out. And again, I tell everybody I would take Nola and I would talk Wheeler against anybody when they're both on their games. They're very, very good. Are they DeGrom and Scherzer? Listen, nobody's DeGrom. Nobody's DeGrom. He's in a world of his own, right? DeGrom is in a world of his own. So who are we to say anybody's comparable to Jacob DeGrom? But Max Scherzer, listen, very, very good pitcher. When he's on, man, he is hard to hit. But one thing I could say is I'd rather face him than I'd rather face Scherzer. My man Jimmy checking in. Man, Jimmy, Alex Manoah is just a complete beast, man. He is a complete beast on the mound, at home. I know Seattle, is one of those teams like the Philadelphia Phillies that's been in a drought for a very long time. They do have a lot of nice bats in that lineup. Obviously, we all know about Rodriguez, right? But you have a lot of nice pieces out there in that lineup. But Alex Manoah, what I will say is, I took a trip to Boston this year, a boys trip with me, my dad, and my 2 boys before I got injured, thankfully. And we went to the Red Sox, and it was Red Sox Blue Jays, and Alex Manoah was on the mound, and I think he like 2 hit the Red Sox in like 8 innings. It was insane. And the thing that I liked about Manoah is, man, does he talk trash? Like, I love pitchers and players that get into the game. We're gonna get a little Draymond Green talk later. But I love the passion when you have these guys that aren't afraid, that basically like, yo, bring it to me, hit what I can pitch. Dude, give me your best shot. Like, that's what the game is all about, man. It's about competition. At the end of the day, then you shake hands, you tip the hat to the better player. Right. So I love Alex Manoah. So Jimmy, 100% tonight, to me, Manoah is a lock. A lock. I honestly, I love Alex Manoah tonight. So again, I know Jimmy's thinking about his playoff showdown lineups, right? So again, obviously, make sure you're following Win Daily Sports for all your DFS and sports betting needs. And we got a lot of guys within the Win Daily Sports family that continue to just print tickets. Unfortunately, I had a really bad night last night. I think a lot of people did with that debacle that happened in Denver. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. But for the most part, hitting props is what I love to do, and it's all about plus money props, man. Like, honestly, I'm going to do a whole show on this, and this isn't a knock on anybody, okay? But you know how Jigsaw is. I like to not necessarily call people out, but just be like, just do a little better, man. Like, we live in a world of the sports betting space where everybody is betting on sports, right? Everybody's betting on sports. And that's what's great about it, right? We love betting on sports. We love the sports betting industry. We love the DFS industry. But do me a favor. Don't go in there and tell me your bet of the day is minus 175. I mean, to be honest with you here, come on. Like, minus 175, minus 140, minus 150. Like, to me, okay. Like, oh, that's a lot. The reason why it's minus 175 is because they even feel like it's going to hit. The books even feel like it's going to hit. So you putting that lock out there really isn't doing anybody any justice, in my opinion. So what I try to do is, you'll very rarely see me throw out a minus 120 or minus 125 pick. Every now and then I might give you a minus 110, minus 115. But, if you go with a different sports book, you could kind of juice that up a little bit to get a plus money number. But for the most part, I'm trying to hit on things that are plus 110, plus 140, plus 150. Okay. I'm trying to, what I do in my process is I look at all these plus money, numbers, and I try to pick out the best value I think and the most attainable. And that's how I do it. So some nights you're gonna have nights where you may not hit anything. Some nights you're gonna have nights where you hit a lot. But all you need to do is hit one. Like when I'm doing home run props, which I will be doing for the playoffs. I can't wait. We're gonna do playoff home run props starting tonight, or actually starting today because they start at 2 o'clock. So we'll throw them out there early. But the plus money props, if I hit 1 out of 4, I already made my money, right? Because they're plus money. So that's what you have to think. Plus money is huge. So yeah. So I mean, listen, these major league playoffs are going to be great. I'm excited. I can't wait. I think the people in Philadelphia are excited. Obviously, I'm a Philadelphia-based guy. You already know that. I'm an Eagles. We're going to get to that in a minute, and we're a Phillies guy. But the Phillies, I continue to say this, are going to be the team that everybody fears if they get hot. Like we can have a discussion about everybody. My man Al checking in. Let's go Philadelphia Phillies. Absolutely. Ring the bell. I mean, listen, 207 start first pitch. The Phillies, nobody wants to face. I'm telling you that now. Nobody wants to face the Philadelphia Phillies. We have had teams over the years in Major League Baseball that have gotten in a wild card. Think about the Giants of yesteryear, right? The St. Louis Cardinals did it. You get in there and you just get hot at the right time. Players get hot at the right time. I'll throw you a crazy name out there. How about Cody Ross? Cody Ross, the people in Philadelphia, unfortunately, have bad nightmares about Cody Ross, who gets hot, who's a stiff, but all of a sudden gets hot in the playoffs. He can't stop it, and you never even hear of him again. That's what the Major League Baseball playoffs are all about. And you can just get hot at the right time. And the Phillies have the best lineup for that. And what I mean by that is now, obviously, in my opinion, the Dodgers have the best lineup in all of baseball. But the Phillies, when you get streaky and when you get hot, you get a guy like Schwarber leading off. Okay. And, again, my man Al says, why'd you bring up his name? Al, Cody Ross, man. I still remember it. Still remember like it was yesterday. Like, who the hell is Cody Ross? All of a sudden, he got hot and he buried the Phillies in the playoffs. And that's what happens in Major League Baseball. And I think that's why people have to be scared of the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, people could honestly be saying, who is Brandon Marsh? Who is Alec Bohm? Right? They're not going to say who is Bryce Harper. They're not going to say who is Kyle Schwarber. Right? They're not going to say who is JT Realmuto. And in my opinion, okay, we're going to go a couple more minutes here on judgment number one. And again, judgment number one is, how far you think the Philadelphia Phillies can go, once they, if they can get past round one, and who is the most important part of them moving forward. And to me, it's JT Realmuto. Listen, how do you win in the playoffs? Said this before, I'll say it again. How do you win in the Major League Baseball playoffs? You play fundamental baseball, you pitch well, and you play elite defense. That's how you win. That's how the Atlanta Braves won. The Atlanta Braves won without their superstar Ronald Acuna Jr. How did they do it? Situational hitting, fundamentally sound baseball, elite defense, and pitching. Well, I don't think there's another elite defender in Major League Baseball better than JT Realmuto. If you're going to try to run the bases in the playoffs, you're going to get, you're going to get got. Sadly mistaken, but you're going to get got because JT Realmuto is a beast behind there. And I'm still waiting for all you people out there, all you, not Brian, James McCann fans out there. Okay. Everybody who said JT wasn't worth the money and wanted to sign James McCann, please stand up. Like, like Eminem said back in the day, will a real Slim Shady please stand up? Will a real fan please stand up? Please stand up. Please tell me, right? Please tell me. Because JT Realmuto is throwing people out quicker than I've ever seen anybody in Major League Baseball. And he's throwing out with, guys that are getting unbelievable jumps. Guys have unbelievable speed. So, you have a guy who can beat you with the bat and the glove. And that's something that nobody in Major League Baseball can say right now. right? It's one or the other. You're either going to get beat with the bat or you're going to get beat with the glove. But JT Realmuto is a game changer. He is a game changer. He can shift momentum with one swing. He can shift momentum with one throw, and that's the most important thing. Listen, in the playoffs, man, when you hit it's a 1-1 game and you get a double. Listen, you need that guy right there ready to throw a guy out at third, ready to jump out for that bunt. You need that guy to be a leader behind the plate. And thankfully, we have the best in the game. And I think he is the most important part of the Philadelphia Phillies moving forward. So on top of the Philadelphia Phillies of Major League Baseball, we got a game to play on Sunday for not only NFL Week 5, which a lot of interesting games this week when we talk about the NFL, and we're going to go around the NFL in a minute. But the Philadelphia Eagles going to Arizona, and we sit there, we think everybody, even my man Jalen Hurts said the other day, "Hey, you're going to ask me questions about Arizona? They have a really good team." Right, Arizona. Listen, even though they haven't been playing at their top level, and even though I think Cliff Kingsbury is an absolute stiff, okay, honestly, he will be gone next year. At the same time, they have a team that listen, even though they're 2-2, they could be 3-1. They could be 3-1. They could be two. Listen, they could be 1-3, two with that. If you take that Vegas game out. But even though I'm not a Kyler Murray fan, he could still beat you with his arm, with his legs. And even though they have no D-Hop, they do have a Hollywood Brown cat that's coming into his own a little bit. They do have a kid named Rondell Moore, okay, who is very explosive. They do have a kid named Greg Dortch who is very good across the middle. And they have a guy like Zach Ertz who's going to catch everything. We know all about Zach Ertz, right? And they have a solid running game as well, with James Conner and Darrell Williams and Eno Benjamin. So they have a good pass rush. And I think that's going to be, the mantra of the game here. It's going to be, can the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, they're facing injuries, obviously, to number one, their left tackle. So are they going to be able to hold off the rush when it comes to the defensive line of the Arizona Cardinals? And if they can't, how does Jalen Hurts respond? And I think that's what it's going to be. I really do. Jose checking in. What's up, Jose? Hopefully, Jose, I'll see you soon, man. Hopefully by the end of the month, I'll see you soon, man. We'll be able to talk face to face finally. I can get back to some kind of normalcy. I'm getting there. So sooner or later, I will be back. I promise you that. So yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, I think this is a big, tall test. This is one of those tests that, when you look past, look at the cornhole man, the cornhole champ checking in. My man, Mr. Sato. What's up, my man? How's it going, man? This is professional cornhole man right here. Okay. Professional cornhole player. My man Sato. Check him out. Always, man. Check him out. I'm telling you right now, my man can sling some bags. He is the man. But this is going to be the thing with this game. The Philadelphia Eagles cannot look past this game, and that's going to be the biggest thing. We have been facing adversity all year already. In only 4 games, we faced a lot of adversity. We've got kicked in the mouth a couple times, right? We got kicked in the mouth a couple times, Sato's Cornhole Corner. There you go, right there. Sato's Cornhole Corner. Check it out. Jose, recover. I'm not. Trust me. I started physical therapy. Just start putting weight on my leg. You go to physical therapy, it gets very sore afterwards. A lot of rest and ice, and I got to learn I can't do too much because I can't re-aggravate it or injure it. So it's all about it getting stronger. So hopefully by this end of the month, I get the clean bill of health and I'm good to go. I can actually walk up the steps like a normal person, and maybe even run around a little bit. We'll see. But right now, it's still slow as we go, for real. But yeah, listen, we need to go in Arizona and take care of business. Do I think we will? Yeah, absolutely, I do. I don't think we look past this team. I think we have enough veterans mixed with the youth on this team to not look past that. Sato is a Browns guy, says even though the Browns are 2-2, we look scary good on offense. I'll tell you what, Sato, I've been very impressed by Jacoby Brissett. I know Jacoby Brissett threw a bad pick the other week, but I tell you, man, the one thing about that team, on offense is Kevin Stefanski is never going to let you down when it comes to the offensive mindset for that team. Never. He's just not. And they have a lot of pieces on that team. I'll tell you the one guy who I love, Sato, on that team is I love David Njoku. David Njoku or Njoku and Joko, whatever way you say it, you can say two different names, but he's a freak of nature, man. He really is. The way he controls the middle of the field, the way he can go vertically deep, the way he can go up and get it, he can go across the middle. He can block. He's like the unsung hero on the offensive side of the ball for me, because you have a team with a 1-2 punch in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb that need that guy who learns how to block to get that gap, through the middle or swing it to the outside, which he is that guy. But then you also have that guy that can, kind of pass protect a little bit, which he can do. And then you could do tight end screens to this cat because he's super quick. And then you could throw backyard fades. You could throw up and go get him, man. I'll tell you, David Njoku is a phenomenal player. I like him a lot in fantasy as well. Play him a lot in the DFS market. So when you talk about the Browns, when you got Amari Cooper still getting crazy targets. You got Njoku, who's the number 2 target. They get the 1-2 punch. Probably the best pure runner in all football, and Nick Chubb. I mean, I'll tell you what, the Browns, even though they're 2-2, again, though, it's only week 5. Like, it's very early in the NFL season, and anything can happen. Sato says, our losses are not for our head coach. Love that guy. We need to throw more to number 2, and he's talking about Amari Cooper. Listen, I love Kevin Stefanski. I do. I like everything about him. I think he's the Kevin Stefanski is that mix between old school, new school, right? He's not Sean McVay, right? He's not love. He's in between, which I really like. I do. He gives me those Mike Tomlin vibes, and you guys always know, for me personally, Mike Tomlin, for me, it is the absolute one guy. If I had to pick a head coach in the National Football League that I would want to run my franchise, it would 100% be Mike Tomlin. So, I like Kevin Stefanski a lot. Sato says Ernest Biner and Kevin Mack. Doesn't that remind you of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt? Wow, that's where that's where you're going back. Ernie Biner and Kevin Mack. That's the Bernie Kosar days, man. You're going back to the Bernie Kosar days in Cleveland, the dog pound, right? That's some great. They're like the Eno Slaughter days. Eno Slaughter was a wide receiver on that team with Bernie Kosar and Ernest Biner and Kevin Mack. That's some great pull by you, Sato. You are definitely you're definitely an NFL connoisseur, man. I know some stuff, man. I do, but yeah, you throw it out there. I love when we talk nostalgia, of these back in the day teams, because I am a huge historian when it comes to the National Football League, man. Right. Sineski is old school with the flair of some new school attitude. Yeah, Stefanski, definitely old and new. And that's what I like about him. And Sato, why he's old school, right? Because he runs the ball. That's old school football. You win and die between the trenches. 100%. And speaking about win or dying, you win or die based on what your website looks like or what your YouTube page looks like. And if you're looking for analytics and you're looking for anything that says, hey, where's my traffic coming from? How do I divert traffic to another site? How do I create traffic for my own site? What do those numbers tell you? That's what SEObrand.com does. They've been doing it for 15 years. They break down all the analytics and give you the best plan of action when it comes to your site, your business, small or big. You have to check them out, man. They've been doing it for, like I said, 15 plus years. They've had the same people doing it. They do all the work for you and just get you the results. They take these cold calls and they turn them into leads and they book them into sales for you when it comes to advertisements and sponsorships and things of that nature. How else can you get these advertisements and sponsorships if you don't have the right traffic? If you want to know who's coming to your site and how to get more people to the site, you got to make sure you check out SEObrand.com, because they are the guys that are going to help you out. So, yeah, Sato says, I believe we have the best 3-down percentage right now in football. I would not be surprised. Jacoby Brissett is a huge game manager. He knows how to roll. And there's a lot of good games this week, man. Like, you got Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Going to be an interesting game in Buffalo. Obviously, again, you got the Kenny Pickett experience. Obviously, Buffalo is the team to beat. But, again, You never know. Then you got the 3-1 London game with the Giants in Green Bay. Again, man, everybody counting Green Bay out 3-1. They, as long as they have the magic, man, they are going to continue to roll. He's starting to make a lot out of nothing. That's what he's starting to do. Be careful. He's turning Romeo Dubs into a player. Okay. We remember the Greg Jennings. We remember the Donald Drivers. We remember the young in their prime Randall Cobbs. Okay. Romeo Dubs is going to be that guy. You just watch, man. I'm telling you, he is a budding superstar. And then you have Chicago, Minnesota. Listen, if Chicago goes into Minnesota, I'll just retire and win. I mean, Minnesota can't let that happen, honestly. And then Tampa Bay and Atlanta, and we're gonna get to some football picks really soon. Give you my picks of the week when it comes from a fantasy perspective, and some anytime touchdowns from the Eagles and Arizona game that I really like. Obviously you'll get that here every Friday. And then listen, Dallas and the Chargers. I think that's a very interesting game. I think it could go either way. The Chargers defense hasn't been exactly what we thought of. It's going to be another week of Cooper Rush, who has looked pretty good in an offense. You get Michael Gallup back for the Dallas Cowboys, who's really showing that he is healthy. So again, Dallas Cowboys are no joke right now, even though I am a Philadelphia guy. It's really hard for me to say that, but it is the truth. So a lot of interesting games right now. But to get back to the Eagles, listen, the Eagles just can't look past this game, and I don't think they will. The biggest thing with the Eagles is I think you're seeing the evolution of Jonathan Gannon's defense right now. He's got the pieces he needed. Listen, everybody was on him in week 1. Everybody relaxed. Like I said, I even came out in the show and said, relax, pump the brakes, calm down. It's week 1. Let him figure it out. And he's figuring it out, man. It's figuring it out. Great to see you back. Praying for you. I'm good, Sato. I'm good, man. I got, I'm in rehab now. The leg's getting stronger. We're getting there. Not as much pain as I was before. Still, I have a repertoire I got to do every day. Going to physical therapy, getting stronger, being able to walk is going to be one of the biggest things. So, yeah, I'm getting there. I appreciate it. And thoughts on Tua, man. You know what? Yeah, let's finish the NFL talk up right here on Tua, because we saw Naheem Hines last night act crazy, man. In a sense of what I mean by that is obviously he was dealing with a concussion, and you see what the body does and how the brain is triggered. The NFL is a very violent sport. I'll be straight up honest with you. When I was growing up, I was told I was not allowed to play football. When I was growing up and I had kids, I told my boys, you will not play football. Right or wrong, I didn't want to deal with this kind of issue. Obviously you can get hurt in every sport, but we're talking about brain injuries, right? CTE. It's a huge, huge issue. And I hope to in the next week, I'm working on a CTE doctor, get on here, let talk about CTE and talk about concussions, just to give you an idea of exactly what happens and the way these hits affect the brain. It's stuff that I want to do. Also, looking to get Alexa Ross back on the program. She covers all Indianapolis sports out there in CBS. Big win for the Colts last night. Talking a little preview, some Indiana Pacers as well. I can't wait to get her on next week. But yeah, listen, I think Tua has a lot to look in the mirror about. He has a well documented history, of concussions. When you get to a point that he was at, I think you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, when is enough enough, in the sense that am I putting too much on the line? I mean, listen, we walk, we live in a world where we've watched, guys get inducted into Canton, into the NFL Hall of Fame, and they could barely even walk on stage, right? Guys in wheelchairs. You see, listen, I don't want to talk about what he's done, but you see whatever's going on with Antonio Brown. If you watch the videos of yesteryear with Antonio Brown, he just doesn't seem like the same guy. I'm not saying that it all stems from something like that, but again, it really alters your psyche. And I think it's something that really needs to be looked into. Listen, we owe it. I'll say this. We owe it to our players. And Sato, I will. He says, I think old school football was better because all these new rules for safety of the players are making us soft. Honestly, Sato, I kind of disagree with that because I think that we do these players a disservice, and I understand that they know the sport that they're going into, but I think we owe it to them to make sure that there are rules in place, whether we call them soft or not, that they can live a normal life afterwards. I mean, every place of employment that I've ever worked at or I've talked to, or I've represented always have some kind of rule in place to look into the future, right? And to keep their employees safe somehow, some way. If you work on a construction site, a lot of these companies they'll put rules in place, whether it be tie downs for ladders, and that's so you don't fall. We could say we're soft all we want. No, I can just climb up the ladder, I'll be good. But no, these are so nobody needs to be a hero in this world. And when we look at the football game as a whole, and you see what it's been able to do negatively when it comes to health and safety for these players, I think it's a big deal. I do. I mean, listen, we're all happy when every single weekend we're throwing money on the line for these guys to score touchdowns to line our pockets, with those plays. But we're not going to give them the respect of saying we need to put rules in place to keep them safe. I think that's a little hypocritical to me. I think we owe it to them. Honestly. Sato, listen, man, everybody got their opinion. I'm good, man. Like he says, maybe solve wasn't the right word, but they're making changes to rules to help. But I think it's causing more injuries, as causing a little bit more unbalance, if that makes sense. Actually, that's a really good point, right? That's a really good point. I'll look at one rule specifically before we get into some football picks for the weekend and some hip hop talk, because we're gonna talk a little hip hop here, because you know how I love music. But I think one of the rules that getting to the quarterback, right? You don't want to hit them low, you don't want to hit them high, don't want to hit them after the play. I get all that, but sometimes if you stop yourself right away too hard, too fast, maybe you can blow your own knee out because you're worried about stopping on a dime so you don't get that penalty. So yeah, there are things I think that can work negatively in both facets. So listen, all I know is for Tua, I think Tua has to look in the mirror a little bit. Tua has to say to himself, do I want to continue to play this sport that I love, even though there could be major repercussions, 10, 20 years down the road? That's all I got to say. On that, prayers up. Prayers up to Naheem Hines. Prayers up to Tua that they make a full recovery and we can, write his story, as he's throwing touchdowns again to Tyreek Hill. I think that's the most important thing. And Sato says, rest in peace, Coolio. Yes, we're going to get to the hip hop talk in a second. But right now, it's brought to you by Win Daily Sports. Make sure you're following Win Daily Sports on all social formats. Make sure you're getting your promo code WIN BIG. Go to their site, sign up for all their prop models and all their tools. And if you put in WIN BIG, that gets you your free week to see everything that not only me, but the crew will give you on a weekly basis. So let's get into some anytime touchdown picks brought to you by Tony Jigsaw Cutillo here for Win Daily Sports. Obviously, I am going Quez Watkins anytime touchdown. Okay, that is plus 340. I think in this game, the way I do these, I look at this game and say, okay, I almost said Antonio Brown. AJ Brown, who's third in the league with 414 receiving yards. Listen, they're going to try to lock him down as much as possible. He will get involved, obviously, but when you try to take two or three guys, because you have Dallas Goedert as well and Devontae Smith, and let's remember this, Miles Sanders is coming off probably the best 2-game stretch in his career. You are going to bring those extra over-the-top safety, okay, or if you're playing nickel, that nickel corner, whoever that over-the-top guy is, you're going to bring them back down into the box, and you're going to say, okay, beat me with the run now. But what that's going to do, it's going to leave that seam open, okay, and Quez Watkins could get that one cut and go, and I think he's going to have one of those 40 to 50-yard touchdowns that I see in this game. So for me, Quez Watkins plus 340. Oh, look at this. Sato says, let's talk cornhole soon. Do your research. We'll talk about the best in the world DraftKings bets. I like that, Sato. We will be in touch when it comes to that. Nothing like talking DraftKings cornhole for real. That should be interesting. Sato, thanks for joining, man. As always, been a pleasure. So let's look at Kyler Murray. Philadelphia Eagles fans may like this, but I like the Kyler Murray a plus 240 anytime touchdown. The one thing Kyler Murray does is he likes to use his legs, and I could definitely see that pocket being invaded. I could see collapsing on Kyler Murray with guys like Hassan Reddick and through the middle, whether it be Jordan Davis, whether it be Fletcher Cox. Kazir White maybe get on one of the stump blitzes. Maybe if you have CJ Gardner Johnson come in and maybe he gets on a corner blitz or a safety blitz. But what I will say is I can see them getting down there. Kyler Murray, between the 10 and the goal line, likes to run a lot, gets those outside. He likes to get outside the pocket, probably drops back about 10 yards sometimes. And he kind of sucks everybody in, makes that spin move, and boom, he's going to score on the right-hand side of the hash. That's what I predict right there. So I'm going to call Kyler Murray touchdown at plus 240. And then how about a couple DraftKings plays I'll give you right off the bat. Tom Brady was 5,700 last week. He scored 27 points. I really like Tom Brady again this week against Atlanta at home. He's only 6,000 on DraftKings. Atlanta's defense has been very underwhelming this year. Tom Brady is just getting people back healthy. Okay. I think that Tom Brady finally, the whole thing is out there with the divorce with Giselle, finally out of his head. He can finally breathe. He could just go play football. And that's what Tom Brady needs to do. He will be back in focus this week. This is a 30+ point fantasy performance for Tom Brady at $6,000. You want him to be your quarterback. And then I had two wild cards for you. I like to call these jigsaw pieces because everybody can pick the good guys. I got to give you the guys that are under $4,000. How about a guy like KJ Osborne out there in Minnesota going up against Chicago? Adam Thielen a little banged up. They're going to focus on Justin Jefferson. I really like KJ Osborne to break across the middle a few times to get some really positive points. And I do like Kyle Phillips in Tennessee. Treylon Burks is doubtful. He's probably not going to play. Obviously, bad injury. He has to heal up soon. You have the evolution of Robert Woods. I get it. Westbrook really wasn't involved. I like Kyle Phillips a lot. Tannehill likes Kyle Phillips a lot. So 100%, I really, really love Kyle Phillips for that specific reason. And only 3,900. So on DraftKings, I think that's a great pick. Javon checking in says, I'm loving the picks and the breakdown behind it. Javon, you know how this rolls, man. We all do this differently, which is great. We can go straight analytics. You can go, and I like to do it like analytics and kind of like analytics and gut, right? You look at this as a whole and you kind of look at what's going on, and you got to pick different ways to analyze these things. And I think that's what's great about the sports betting space. You do a phenomenal job with your analytics. As always, Javon, fantastic follow. Make sure you're following at J Alfred 10, right? J Alfred 10 on Twitter. Make sure you follow him. Doing a ton of work for Sporting News, doing phenomenal stuff, always bringing out some good picks. And he says, my first anytime touchdown play is James Robinson, which was plus 100 on DK. Hey, how about this, Javon? Check this out. While we're here live. So in my season long league, got a lot of receivers, but my running backs are hurting. And I'm not a huge running back guy, but this league, you got to start two running backs. My two running backs are Saquon and DeAndre Swift and nobody else. I didn't do my due diligence, right? Because I'm so fixated on everything else. So this guy offers me a trade, James Robinson for Gabrielle Davis. I decline it. I counter and say, Gab Davis, I want J.K. Dobbins. You think I'm crazy for saying I'm not taking James Robinson for Gabby Davis? I just think Gabby Davis, he's been hurt with the ankle injury. You will see the old Gabby Davis of last year, and it's going to start this week, and I'm not going to regret that trade unless I get somebody that can really, really help me because I still have guys like Christian Kirk on that team. So, I'm going to see what he goes back with. But you say, how about a KJ Osborne anytime touchdown? Might have to play that. Listen, Javon, Chicago can't stop anybody. They really can't. And I know that Kirk Cousins is going to throw the ball a lot in this game. Again, the running game has not gotten going. I know Dalvin Cook is still nursing that shoulder injury, probably nursing it all year, right? But yeah, I really, really think that KJ Osborne has a chance to really have a big game this week. Now he says, now you're not crazy. Davis is too valuable. Exactly. He's too valuable to me in that offense. So I need a stud. Like, and I'm not saying James Robinson is a stud, but I think J.K. Dobbins is a stud. There's no competition for carries out there. He is going to be the guy. And you already saw he looks really healthy. So if I can add J.K. for Gabe Davis, I'm going to do it. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted on that. But again, Tom Brady, 6,000 on DraftKings. Kyle Phillips, KJ Osborne, both really good FFVP plays. That's the fantasy firebox value play. And then I really like the anytime touchdowns from Quez Watkins and Kyler Murray. And Javon's talking, he likes the anytime touchdown for possibly KJ Osborne. And he loves the first anytime touchdown play of James Robinson, which meaning his first. He puts a lot of them out there. Says his first is James Robinson, plus 100 on DK. I like that pick as well. Now let's end this show on the last judgment, obviously. And again, actually, it's a few judgments. Okay. So I like to call these random judgments before we get to some hip hop talk here. Okay. Before we get to some hip hop talk, we have to talk a couple random judgments because that's what happens. You come out with these I see things, and the first random judgment is the Draymond Green incident with Jordan Poole. Are we blowing this out of proportion here? Listen, I don't know how many people listening or watching have never played sports before, but when you're a grown man, and or a grown woman for that perspective, because a woman can get after it as well, right? It doesn't matter, male, female, you're getting after it when you're a professional. And whether you're scrimmaging, whether you're practicing, I'm telling you right now, I watch my 15, 16-year-old kids at soccer. When they get after it, man, they're ready to come to blows at practice. They are. They're ready to come to blows. They're mad. Listen, man, if you know the word meg in soccer, okay, where the ball goes between your legs where you're made look foolish in front of your boys, maybe at that time you got your little girls coming and watching the game, right, and cheering you on for your girlfriends or boyfriends, whatever. So it's funny because that's a prideful thing, and you get hot-headed about that, and you get heated. I'm not going to blame Draymond Green over this. I think, okay, did he go? I don't know. Yeah, should you punch a teammate to take a swing? Probably not. Okay, but these are grown men, man. What I like about it is you're battling. You're battling. I'm good. Like, yeah, will we have to be reprimanded a little bit? Yeah, but what I mean by reprimanded is taught to. I mean, people want to get him thrown out of the league. Golden State should release him. Come on, man. He's what that team's all about. Right? Yeah. Listen, did anybody ever watch the Detroit Pistons, the bad boys back in the day with Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn? Did anybody watch that team? Did anybody understand Dennis Rodman? Like, dude, if you went through the middle of the play, you were getting punched, you were getting elbowed, you were getting jarred off. I mean, this is what happens. And guess what? I guarantee you, in practice, those dudes were getting the same treatment. I mean, did you watch anything about Michael Jordan? Anything about The Last Dance? Anything about how crazy he was and how competitive he was, where his teammates hated him sometimes in practice? Man, it's practice. Not to go old school with AI, but man, it's practice, man. Like, seriously, at the end of the day, he is just a player who wants the best out of everybody, but he's a very prideful player too, and he practices the way you play. That's the one thing I want to say. I'll end it on this. I tell my kids all the time when we're at practice how you play. Practice how you play. Okay? I don't want you practicing lackadaisical. I want you to practice how you play. And Draymond Green was practicing how he played. Yes, should you have a limit and know, okay, I can't hit this dude, he's my teammate. But at the same, I'm never going to condone violence, whether it be against an opposing team or your teammate. But at the end of the day, it's just the way Draymond Green is, and it's his competitive nature. And maybe it went a little too far, but to say he should get thrown out of the league is absolutely ridiculous. So that's where I stand on that. And let's end on this. It's not it's kind of like a random judgment, but I obviously, you people know me, a huge hip hop guy. I love the world of hip hop music, and I just recorded a couple hip hop segments, for the Jigsaw Chronicles that'll be live on the Final Judgment. Make sure you're following. If you're watching the show, you go to YouTube on the Final Judgment with Tony Cutillo. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you're following at Judge Jigsaw on Twitter and Instagram. A lot of cool things coming up. A lot of good partnerships coming up. Can't wait to announce them as well. This has been great. We just hit 1.55 subscribers. We're up to almost 2,000. So get in there, man. When we get to 2,000, we'll do a giveaway. I got a lot of cool things planned. This has been great. I want to thank everybody that's always been tuning in, checking out this show. Obviously, for the last month, as I'm on the DL, this is all I've been able to do, thankfully, because, listen, I'm going to tell you something. When you get injured and you can't do what you're used to doing, when you just can't make a cup of coffee or you just can't walk to the bathroom correctly, it plays on your mind, man. When people have to wait on you and you know that you should be doing things, the mental aspect is crazy. It really is. Mental health, right? It is a big deal. And I'm going to be honest with you, if I didn't have this microphone, I didn't have this audience, and I didn't have people checking in, I probably would have went crazy. So thankfully, I'm able to do this, and I'm very, very blessed and fortunate. That being said, Hip Hop Awards hosted by Fat Joe. This week, I Am Hip Hop Award goes to Trina, very underrated rapper. Great show. And the reason why I bring this up is, old school versus new school. And if you're a hip hop person, if you love the world of hip hop, which I think is the best way to get your message about is in the world of hip hop. That's why I love it so much, and let's be honest, man, it's all world, right? It's all world. I think with all the racial diversity going on in this world, which is absolutely crazy, I hate that we're taking a step back in this world. I really do. I don't get it. I'll never understand it. I say this again, and this is full transparency. You know how I am. You know how I talk. I just tell it like it is. Like I was brought up in my household. I was brought up in a world where there was no diversity, right? There was no color of your skin. Everybody was the same. Everybody was equal. That's why I love all the things that I do. And everybody's like, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that way? I don't see it that way, man. Like it's just not the way I am. I look at the topic as a whole. And the thing is, when you're a mature human being, is when you could take a topic and understand both sides of the argument, okay, and not just go on one side or the other. You can see it both ways, right? And I think that's the most important thing here that we have to learn in life, that you have to be able to see things on both sides of the spectrum here, because you're not always on that side and you don't know, what this person or that person is dealing with on a daily basis. And I think that's what hip hop does. Hip hop brings everybody together, man. Young, old, right? Whether no matter what ethnicity, no matter what background, doesn't matter. Hip hop brings everybody together, which I absolutely love. And I'm watching that show, and it elevates people to another status that's rightfully deserved. But the biggest thing I took out of that show is, man, guess what? Old school hip hop still reigns supreme, man. For all you millennials out there, for all you cats that say new school, new hip hop is where it's at, I sadly disagree. I'm sorry. Listen, I have mad respect for all the new up and coming artists, right? Yeah, I can't get into all of it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I love the beats. I have no idea what the hell you're saying half the time, but I do really like it. I honestly like the new school of women when it comes to rap music and hip hop than I do of the men. Just my own personal preference. I just like the style a little more. I always got into Cardi B, always got into Nicki when she was up and coming. I love Lotto, right? I love so many different aspects of the way that they can formulate and sample an old school beat, mix it into their beat. Like, Big Energy is just, they're anthems, man. Like, and that's the thing about hip hop. Hip hop is always about anthems, right? Hey, hip hop hooray, right? Uptown anthem. But no, at the end of the day, it's always about, it's about anthems. It's something that you can always sing. And Big Energy was an anthem, still an anthem, right? It's the beat, it's the rhyme, it's the style. And that's why, I've gravitated towards new school when it comes to female rap and hip hop more than it comes to the male versions. But what I will say is, when we talk about old school, I'm watching the show, And no disrespect to the new school. And wait, how about this, man? Shout out Nori. How about Noriega making the appearance? Like, I know he's got the show and all, but man, when LRE came out on the stage, I'm like, whoa, like I was back. Like I was straight up back to bloody money, man. Like I was straight back to Capone and Noriega. I'm thinking in my mind, like, wow, like, am I really, if you remember back in the day, probably I'm gonna say 94, you couldn't get Nori off an album. He was the most highly touted person to make cameos on songs ever. Nori was on everything, right? The New York Report with Capone and Noriega was huge. If you're like, man, that album was crazy. I mean, I go back, man. I'm talking 90s. I am talking 90s, man. Like that is like Javon checking in says, I love old school hip hop, Biggie, Tupac, The Far Side, Mace, LL. Most of my Spotify playlist is 90s hip hop and R&B, and I'm 30. Now, see, that's what I love. Javon's 30. I'm 44 and I live in the 90s, right? That's where I live. And I could probably name albums that I've had in my collection that nobody even heard of, but that are off the charts, right? When you talk about all those spin-offs of Wu-Tang, like LA the Dark Man, okay? Stuff like what is LA the Dark Man? Man, go pick up At the Speed of Life Exhibit. Exhibit At the Speed of Life is probably one of the best albums of all time that nobody talks about, right? Go listen to Paparazzi. Go listen to that song Paparazzi. Go listen to Foundation. And for all you people that don't say rap doesn't tell a story, I said this before. Brenda's Got a Baby. Tupac told a story that entire song. The Foundation exhibit had told a story the entire song. Like that's what was great about 90s hip hop and 90s R&B, man. Not that is where it's at. That is where it's at. And you know, I brought this up on Heat Ratio Live. I'm sorry. I still can't get R. Kelly out of my mind. I know he was a bad guy for what he did and what he was implicated on and what he put away on and what he was charged with. I get all that, but there may not have been another guy on the mic than R. Kelly when you talk about R&B. But back then, man, when you're talking about like Keith Sweat, Twisted, LSG, okay, back in the day, people like Tevin Campbell, like High Five, okay, like H Town. Like, let's just throw it out there, man. Jodeci. I mean, yeah, Javon. Listen, Javon Spigot, Lauryn Hill, Aaliyah in Vogue, SWV. I get weak in the knees, right? Aaliyah 1 in a million. Lauryn Hill, doo-wop. Lauryn Hill is probably could go down as the best female vocalist ever. She just doesn't have the track, right? And good for her for saying, I'm good. I made my album. I'm with the Fugees. I come out with my solo album, Misunderstand. I think it was Misunderstanding of Lauryn Hill. I forget exactly the name of it. But that's that voice. That's one of those voices that it's like a Mary J. Blige that you'll always forever remember. So yeah, like I just think like I'm watching the hip hop awards and they did the Loud 30 anniversary, with Steve Rifkin, who is the owner of Loud Records. And if you don't know Loud Records houses some of the biggest names in rap history. And that was before we had hip hop. It was just called rap. Right. That's why you had Yo MTV Raps. That's why you had Rap City on BET. I watched them like create Raps. Yo MTV Rap started with Fab Five Freddy on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock before it was Dr. Dre and Ed Lover on MTV on weekdays. Right. Rap City was tremendous. It's where I learned who got the jazz from Tribe Called Quest. Right. That's why I learned a lot of my historical rap background was from Rap City. Shout out BET for bringing Rap City to the forefront. And I watched the Loud 30 reunion where you had people like MOP. MOP doesn't ever get enough respect. Corrupt, okay, just killing it. The Wu-Tang, reunion, so to speak, on stage with Meth and Bobby Digital, okay, which is RZA, and then you have Raekwon, which is the most underrated of all of Wu-Tang, okay, like Mobb Deep. Like, are you kidding? Like, and the crowd reaction was crazy. And that's what just shows me that everybody still relates to that era. So even though new school listen, I have respect for everybody because I don't think everybody understands. I will say this right now: if you do not have a respect for hip hop, just watch the awards and watch one cipher. Just watch one cipher. That's it. And tell me how that is done. You can't just listen. You cannot just grab a microphone and rip off a cipher and spit out bars without having any talent. Just can't do it. Okay? You're just misguided when people say, "Ah, it's just trash." That's because they're misguided. That's because they're misguided. They don't understand. Like there is a talent behind every base of music and in hip hop. Man, I'm telling you, like I go back the 90s players. Me and Javon are gonna just share playlists, man. I think he gonna like my playlist as well. If you want my playlist, hit me up. I'll give you my playlist. I got tons of them, man. I got tons of them because if you don't have any Gangstar, any Guru, any DJ Clue, if you don't have any of that on your playlist, any Group Home, you got to get some Group Home. If you don't know Group Home, you got to get some Group Home. Living Proof is one of my favorite songs of all time. Man, if you don't have Renee from Lost Boys on there, if you ain't got I Got Five on it from Loonies, you're doing something different. But that's old school hip hop, and that's where I live. But on that note, we're going to get out of here. 55 minutes strong. We had Judgment on the Phillies. We got Red October starting. We gave you some picks brought to you by Win Daily Sports. We also talked some Eagles, some NFL. We had a lot of people checking in. As always, make sure you're giving us a follow on both platforms, Heat Ratio Sports and Win Daily Sports. And then make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube and the podcast for the Final Judgment with yours truly, Tony Jigsaw Cutillo. Make sure if you're looking for any kind of analytics, any kind of SEO approach, any kind of website diversion and direction, any way that you can create traffic and get leads, you make calls for your site and your business, SEObrand.com is where you want to check out. They got a tremendous website with all kinds of tools and tricks that you can look at that they can help you with to generate those calls and not just generate, but close. And yeah, I mean, just everybody, finally we're out of the rain here on the East Coast, it looks like, and we finally have some dry air, which will be nice to breathe in, even though I can't go far, but at least I can breathe in for a little bit. But yeah, man, enjoy the MLB playoffs. Enjoy NFL Week 5. And as always, like I always say here on the show, man, stay safe, stay healthy. And some people have thoughts, some people have takes, but on this show, you get the final judgment.